I'm Hunter.
I'm Tino. We're here to drop our hot takes about the amusement industry.
You're listening to the Sweet Seat Podcast.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone. What's up? It's been, a month? Right?
It has. It's been, as of when we're recording this right now, it's been 3 weeks since...
3 weeks, okay.
Since we've posted an episode of the Sweet Seat Podcast, but here we are with episode 5 of the Sweet Seat Podcast. We're at 5. I can't believe it. I'm sure Tino can't believe it. You can probably tell that we have a little bit of a different setup today.
Yeah, so the biggest reason for our delay is, we don't actually really have a place to record. Like a good place where both Hunter and I can both meet up together.
Yeah.
So we kind of have this cool pseudo solution. I'm recording from my house. Hunter's recording from his house. It works.
We're getting it done. We're getting the content out, and you know what? That's all that matters right now. The production value might go down a little bit, but you know what? We're here for you, and episode 5 is here.
This is kind of an experiment, so hopefully this works for what we're trying to do.
We're crossing our fingers.
Crossing our fingers, yes.
Yes. But anyways, enough about our little delay. But let's get into our actual podcast episode. We're going to start off Runaway Ramble by talking about our theme of the episode today is about, fittingly, operational delays with attractions. And so we kind of wanted to start out. This is more of like a Tino-centric topic because he came up with this idea, which I think is awesome because it's very prevalent now with a lot of coasters opening and the parks being open now and having more daily operations now that the summer season is kind of kicking into high gear. It's a very fitting and timely topic. So, Tino, do you want to kind of get us started?
I guess so, yeah. So the first thing that we should talk about, and probably the most recent thing that has happened just since we recorded, is the announcement of Zambezi Zinger's opening being delayed.
Zambezi, man. Zambezi Zinger.
Ah! I always screw it up. Zambezi, I see Zambezi. Whatever. Okay, anyways, yes. Zambezi Zinger
God, man.
has been delayed. Yes, and we have no announcement whatsoever as the one that's going to be opening back up.
Yeah.
Or opening up, we should say.
Just in general.
We've seen it cycle. It cycled a lot, and they were close to opening it to the public. I wonder if it's even been inspected, for what?
I feel like it probably has been. I know that if some of you follow the Sweet Seat Instagram, I've shared a few other posts from other people that have, kind of shown off at testing, and so I know that for a fact it's been testing for quite a while now. But yeah, it's not quite opened yet, and as far as we know, we're not particularly sure why. I think we kind of have our theories, Tino.
Well, there's a few aspects, right? So I believe this is the first GCI to use the Infinity Flyer trains, right? I don't think any other ride has them. This is the first one.
Yes, I think that is correct.
So perhaps there's an issue with those. I know they're very similar to the Millennium Flyers, but they're not quite the same.
Yeah.
Not quite. So
it's like a new generation of them.
Yeah. The other thing, and I feel like I should know better as an engineer to think they've thought this through. Something just irks me about the spiral lift. If you think about how a train articulates through a track, if you think about how a brake run works, if you think about how the drive tires work, right? They're grasping that fin below the train.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires, to my understanding, straight track. So how do you do that on an upwards curve? Do those drive tires have a little bit of give so that they could kind of ride along with the fin below it.
Right. I mean, that's something that
Yeah.
is definitely in question, right? Because this is a prototype. This is a coaster that is designed after the original Zambezi Zinger, which was a Schwarzkopf, right?
Yes.
And so, yes, it was, because now it's in, I think, somewhere in South America. I think it's Colombia. It still exists out there, which is a really cool attraction, super unique and stuff like that. But doing this with a wooden coaster is like, this is a prototype. It's something completely new. And so when it comes to that spiral lift hill, I'm sure they are having some issues with it because it's a first of its kind sort of deal. And so just like anything else that is kind of new within, you know, with anything that comes new with new attractions and things like that, when it comes to prototypes, there's always going to be issues. There's going to be things and kinks that they need to work out. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is one of the things that's giving them some trouble. But I mean, who knows? It could be a lot of other things. It could be those trains, because the trains are completely new and it's the first time that they are implementing them somewhere.
It's also, I believe, the first time they're using like a mix of Titan Track and regular wood on a brand new coaster.
Yeah. So we've seen them add Titan Track to other coasters, such as White Lightning.
Yes.
Got it. I know that Boulder Dash is getting some of that Titan Track as well, right? Or is that...
Yeah, I think the first drop got it. But
yeah. I for a second, I didn't know if it was that or the Gravity Group, like the pre-cut track. That's Gravity Group, right?
Oh, it might be.
Is it? You get the idea, though. You know,
yeah.
Like, this is kind of a first of its kind sort of deal. So, yeah.
I'll admit, there's a lot of talk about parks in here that I don't know much about. I haven't really looked into much at Worlds of Fun or Lake Compounds. I want to get to both this year, but who knows? Right.
Yeah. Totally. So, yeah. I mean, prototypes, it can be a little iffy. And you know what? I think that honestly just should be the expectation. I don't really think there's a lot of prototypes out there that have been super perfect and successful the first time around. You know, they get thrown out there to parks, the parks build them for the first time, and then if, you know, the manufacturer does decide to build more of them, they can kind of use what they already have existing to kind of perfect and to work out some of those issues in the future. So, yeah.
Speaking of new rides and operational delays, I think another ride we should talk about is the Cedar Point Wild Mouse. Hunter, have you heard anything about that?
Honestly, no, because it is open right now. I know that for sure.
Open. Yes, it has opened. It did open on time, which is great. However, I have seen a lot of questionable videos, we'll say. I have seen more videos of the ride getting evacuated than it actually running. Yeah, so this might have been more for like the opening week, but there were a lot of videos circulating of just the cars just stopping to one of the brake roads, just one of the block brakes throughout the ride, and they'd sit there for a while, and then eventually they'd come and evacuate them from the ride.
Interesting.
Again, new ride, Wild Mouse, especially like pretty much any Wild Mouse coaster is going to be like this. There are so many blocks on the ride because they run so many cars. So there's so many locations where the cars could stop.
Totally.
So
yeah.
Imagine, think about how the electrical system has to work for that, how you have to keep track of the trains. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. I can believe that.
Absolutely. And, with this being kind of more of a new generation of Wild Mouse, I'm sure that there's even some newer technology that's being implemented into this ride that, hasn't really traditionally been in Wild Mouses before, such as like all those mock Wild Mouses that you see out there. But let's think more about like operational delays on more of a daily basis. And so like this would be more of a situation where let's say you're at Cedar Point, right? and you're going to ride Millennium Force, but then all of a sudden it closes down. What are some of the things that we can consider for these rides going down, why they go down, and what kind of somewhat is the process of how these things get kind of taken care of and what it means for the riders, things like that, right?
Yeah. So, a ride is a very complex mechanical and electrical device.
Yeah, for sure.
With, we'll say, hundreds, if you're Top Thrill Dragster, thousands of sensors on that ride. Or thousands of things that you have to read and monitor all the time.
Yeah.
There is always the possibility of one of those devices failing. And, that is considered from an engineering perspective. What happens if X fails? What is the redundancy solution to that? And what is the, if for whatever reason that fails, what is the consequence of that?
Yeah.
And so, I talk a lot of mumbo jumbo, but what this translates to is pretty much any sort of operational delay that you will experience on a ride, or any that you might witness on a ride in terms of electrical or mechanical function, is 99% of the time going to result in the riders being stopped in a safe position somewhat.
Yes. And there's an emphasis there on a safe position, right? Safe
position.
And that's totally one of the misconceptions about an operational kind of delay, is that it's the ride's not broken down. It's not those things are kind of, I feel like they're not properly termed,
They really aren't.
Because by saying operational delay, that makes it more sound like, oh, it's a delay. It's not able to operate at the moment, but it'll be up and running as soon as possible. And that's because everything is safely done, It's all about safety when it comes to any of these amusement parks, whether it be Hersheypark, Cedar Point, Kennywood, anything like that. And so, I just wanted to make sure that people understood this is very much these are safe things. This all comes back to the premise of safety. So anyways, go ahead.
So going back to the reasons, you have the electrical and the mechanical, and that is pretty much the end result of that. You're going to stop somewhere, and you're going to stop somewhere safely. Yes. That's why you might see a train on Millennium Force stuck on the lift hill for 45 minutes. Or you might be on that train.
Which, if you are, congratulations, you're part of an operational delay, which sometimes people get to be a part of.
Shout out to Cedar Point Coaster Mania 2022.
Are you trying to reference the fact that you were able to do this at one point?
I was on the train for 45 minutes. Shout out to the red train. Oh my god. Yeah.
How far up the lift were you?
Top.
Ooh,
we weren't crossing the lift. It block checked kind of.
Yeah.
But
that's so cool.
Yeah. I was up there for 40. I was up there for 40 minutes, and I was deathly scared.
What time of year is this?
June. It was literally a year ago almost.
Okay, so it's not I'm imagining some of those coaster events that happen earlier in the season, and I'm imagining it being April or May or something like that, and it's still kind of cold up by Lake Erie, and you're just sitting at the top freezing.
I'd also like to mention that this was during June at 11 o'clock at night, and there was heat lightning.
Oh. Okay. That doesn't necessarily sound like the most safest thing ever, but interesting.
The heat lightning wasn't there when we first got up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it ended up being there. After 45 minutes.
They got us down. Don't worry. I'm here.
Okay.
But still.
Yeah. Anyways.
Either way. Yes. That's all accounted for. You are safe no matter where you're at. The ride's designed to stop where it is. And
totally.
Anti-rollbacks and stuff. It's funny how even in the moment when you know all of those things and it happens to you, forget sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyways. So
I kind of want to take the next one. if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So, rides are rides. You know, think of it like Roller Coaster Tycoon. Every ride is different, and so they all have their own little ratings, whether it comes to excitement, intensity, and nausea, right? So there are going to be some rides that kind of make you a little bit more nauseous if you just recently eaten or you haven't drank a lot, anything like that. And so, of course, naturally, people get a little sick on the ride sometimes, right? And or maybe even sometimes people haven't gone to the bathroom. They've been waiting in line for 2 hours on those hot summer days, and they really need to go to the bathroom. Sometimes people can have accidents.
Yeah.
You kind of catch my drift.
They make their own bathroom.
They make their own bathroom. That's a good way of putting it. But yeah.
So kindly.
Yeah. So whether it be someone, maybe throwing up a little bit or they had to go to the bathroom, it's got to get taken care of because obviously if you're the next rider on, you don't want to sit in that or put your feet in that or, that's a lot of contamination. And so, whoever's working these attractions, they are in charge of kind of taking care of that and making sure that, it gets cleaned up as soon as possible.
Yes.
But also making sure that it's done thoroughly enough so that way there isn't any kind of leftovers. This might mean... yeah. You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah.
This might mean that it could take a little bit of time and, it leads to some of these operational delays, especially if you kind of find this happening in one of the trains of these coasters or on the attraction, whether it's a coaster or not even. It takes time to clean that up, especially if they want it to be done thoroughly. I think you'd want it to take more time than, quickly wiping it up and just letting people back on. Sometimes this also means that they might have to test the ride a lot more and have trains run around the track so that way they know that it's kind of even just aired out because they are throwing other chemicals onto these trains.
Or even if that row goes empty for a bit, you might see that too.
Yes.
See a hit in capacity.
Yeah, you'll see that a lot of parks is just kind of they can run the other rows of an attraction or other seats of an attraction, but they might keep some of them blocked off for a little bit of time so that way they can air out a little bit. So yeah, that's another thing is just, I guess we can call them spills. For lack of a better term. So it's not too icky and gross. Yeah. But yeah, that's another reason.
Yep. So some other things that we're kind of stretching the definition of operational delay because this is...
I think this fits more into just operations in general.
Operational timing, we should say.
Yeah. It's not particularly a delay, to an extent as these other things are, but it just, it still slows things down,
But, understand that, these rides, they're designed with restraint mechanisms, and the restraint mechanisms have to properly restrain a rider.
Yes, they do.
And depending on the nature of how a restraint works, right? If you're more snug in that restraint, and actually, in this situation, we can call it an operational delay, because I've personally witnessed this at Kennywood. For our more snug riders, just depending on how the latching mechanism works, if you're too snug in that restraint, it'll actually get stuck, locked. This was actually a very common problem with Phantom. For some of our riders, if the lap bar was just so snug against them that the unlocking mechanism couldn't work, we've had to have maintenance come out before to disassemble the lap bar to remove a guest.
Right. So this becomes a problem.
Yes.
Not just because a guest isn't able to ride safely, but also because it's causing stress to some of the parts of these trains and the restraints and whatnot.
Yes.
And so it hits multiple different points of why it delays things.
It might not. This almost might be a delayed delay, where it might be such a minor thing in the moment, but
Yeah.
every moment of wear and tear eventually does add up to something else, and you have to replace these parts, you have to adjust things, like it all kind of ties together.
And it all takes time.
Yeah.
Like all these little things that add up eventually lead to more time being taken care of on these attractions and the coasters and restraints and stuff like that.
Yep. Hunter, if it's all right with you, I'm going to take the next one too, because
Yes.
I have a lot
Yeah.
to say about this.
Oh, I do too.
All right.
Believe me.
So, I'm going to say something here, and I think my other fellow ride ops will agree with me, and maybe not the guests, but loose articles. Loose articles are absolutely the cause for an operational delay, and not in. You might hear that and not agree with that at first, but let me explain a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to use a work example because this is something you guys can all see, right? If you're up at Skyrush and you're wearing a pair of glasses that don't have a strap, you will be asked to remove them, right?
Yes.
Because we don't want them to separate from you, right? And
It's a
fall
very
onto the
high
ground.
speed and forceful ride.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it causes a concern for things like that to be lifted off of you during
Yeah.
the ride. But yes, go ahead.
And for us, that is more so you do not lose them. That's not really that's so that you don't lose those items, right? For us, we don't consider the extra 5 seconds that we have to tell you that, hey, let's put away your glasses to be like, quote, a delay. But it does affect our capacity, right?
It absolutely does. We see it firsthand.
If I can dispatch a Skyrush train in, here, I'm just going to give a rough number, like 2 minutes. And instead of being able to send the train out every 2 minutes, we send out a train every 2.5 minutes. That is a few less trains an hour that we can do, which means that a few less 100 guests ride in that hour.
Yep.
That is, while you might not see it as that, that's a delay.
Operators don't want you to lose things on the ride, and parks don't want you to lose things on the ride. But also, it goes back to safety, and by you having these things either on your head, in your hand, in your pocket, these more aggressive attractions are going to, try and get those things out of your pocket, off your head, out of your hand. And if they do become loose, they can hurt somebody that's on the ride. They can hurt somebody who's off the ride. Or they can even hurt yourself. And you might not even know it, but it's happened before. So, loose articles are just, I think they're the unsung hero of why operational delays exist. You'll actually see some parks, such as Six Flags, for example, if they see a phone out on the attraction, they will stop the attraction. They will confiscate the phone, and the ride will keep on going. Now, that's not necessarily something that happens at all parks, like Hersheypark, for example, doesn't necessarily do that.
You're missing a key piece of what Six Flags will do too. After they see that phone, they'll come take it from you. They'll run the ride to get you back to the station, and you will be greeted by security who will escort you out of the park.
Yeah, they're very...
Yeah, Six Flags...
They take it to another level. They're very serious about it.
They do not tolerate it. And
No.
You know what? Good for them. Really.
Honestly.
I appreciate that because...
That's commendable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Loose articles, they're another reason. Weather. Not every day that you go to an amusement park is going to be bright, sunny, and beautiful temperatures.
Yep.
Different kinds of weather conditions can cause rides to not be open, whether that just be something as simple as precipitation, whether it be high winds, whether it be the temperatures. There's a lot of different factors in weather that kind of changes the way that attractions and specifically roller coasters are able to successfully run. One of the things that we can kind of use that as an example is Gatekeeper at Cedar Point. That ride it's a wing coaster, right? So it spans out a lot, but it's very graceful. It goes over the hills it doesn't go over them pretty fast. So even a little bit of wind can cause it to valley in some spots.
Yeah, especially
with,
if you have unexpected bursts of wind, which is
totally,
what
yeah.
happened during the one video that's floating around on the internet.
Also, Top Thrill Dragster. That's another great example of, even just from the same park, of how wind can affect things. So, like, if it can launch at the speed that it needs to go, but with enough wind resistance, it might roll back. Which is completely safe. It happens, and that's the kind of situation that they're prepared to handle. It's not something that's unheard of, and it's not something that's uncommon. It just means that it's something that's not intended. Other things like rain. Rain can cause a lot of issues with attractions as well. Not only is it probably going to hurt if you ride a over 70-mile-an-hour coaster in the rain, because it's going to feel like needles digging into your skin, but also it can kind of change how some of the things on the attraction work, like the brakes. So, like Tino, for example, I'm sure you know about Thunderbolt at Kennywood.
Yeah, Thunderbolt is one of those rides at Kennywood where as soon as it starts raining, you take a train off. You don't even risk it because now, keep in mind, this was before 2021, maybe 2022. I think that's when they put the fin brakes in. But back when it had skid brakes, as soon as it started to rain, you took a train off. You didn't even risk it because you had a very, very realistic possibility of, if those were wet, it was sliding through.
Right.
Fun fact, actually, while we're on the topic of Thunderbolt, one train sometimes wasn't even enough. Sometimes you were running half capacity, quarter capacity, because even with the brakes at full power, you still had the risk of sliding through.
Yeah.
So, if you ever see old videos of Thunderbolt on a rainy day and you only see like 6 rows filled, yeah, that's intentional.
Yeah. And like, even taking it home to Hersheypark, like, if you go online and look at some of their weather policies, you can see that there are some attractions that close even when they just see visible rain. It doesn't even need to be downpouring or anything. But some of these attractions just they have to close when it is in these kind of conditions, because whether it be a lot of precipitation or even just a little bit, it can affect the attractions in quite a significant way that can affect safety. So that's why you might see some operational delays in terms of weather.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, like, that's kind of what we have for operational delays, just from a very broad standpoint. There's so many reasons that can go into this and things that we didn't even mention. But yeah, that's kind of the basis. Wouldn't you say, Tino?
I would say so. I think.
Yeah.
So I think the only other point I really have, and kind of dives more into the seriousness of the maintenance side of it, is like, a lot of these, you can do regular maintenance on a ride. You can do everything you need to do properly in order to ensure these things won't happen, and they will still happen.
Yeah.
That is literally the nature of the beast. That is why these systems are designed with safety redundancies in mind.
Nothing is ever 100% perfect.
Nothing is ever 100%.
No.
You can see things like what happened with Top Thrill Dragster back in 2021, and you can. I don't know if anyone who listens has read the full report about that entire situation, but the maintenance records of what they did to prevent something like that from happening were 100% reasonable, and it's pretty fair to say that they did everything right in terms of, like, they followed all their due processes and they did everything right. And, with that being said, while the outcome of that situation was most definitely less than ideal, that was such a freak accident, and you cannot prevent everything.
No.
You simply cannot. You can make such a good faith effort to, and we, us working in the industry, and for many, many others, many other professionals who do work in the industry, we do make a good faith effort to ensure that we keep things going as smoothly and as safely as possible
Yes.
without any sort of delay or
Absolutely.
without any sort of struggles.
Yeah.
But just know, like, these delays happen, and that's okay.
Yep. And it's normal. It's just
Yeah.
It's just because it's not the way it's intended that I think people get the misconception that it's not safe or normal or
Yeah.
things like that. But industry wide, it's
Yes.
not even just it's not just a Hersheypark thing. It's not just
A Cedar Point
Kennywood.
thing.
Right. It's nationwide. It's across the world. It's just the way things go. So.
Yes.
But yeah, let's bring it back home. Let's come to Chocolatetown Chat for a little bit and kind of bring the conversation over to Hershey just for a little bit.
So
most recently we can talk about Wildcats Revenge.
Let's talk about that because, fun fact, we're recording this on May 28th, and tomorrow is the season pass holder preview of the Wildcats Revenge.
Yeah. Very exciting day, by the way. It's kind of weird that it kind of crept up on us like this, but
I will say I'm shocked with how quick it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are.
Part of me still doesn't believe it's gonna happen tomorrow. I don't believe it's actually gonna open, but I know it will, but I think it will at the same time.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just
Yes.
It seems so whoa.
Yeah, it was very, very sudden.
Very sudden. But we see all these things from an engineering perspective. I'm sorry, I'm stretching. I'm like, all over the place. But yeah, we see this from an engineering and mechanical and a construction. We'll say a construction perspective, and we see the things that have to happen. Hunter and I, we have come and gone from that park, and seen trains running on that thing so often.
Yeah.
Sometimes late into the night, right? Anyone can see that from the street. They've been... I'm pretty sure there are actually some videos from the Blink-182 concert last night, at 11 o'clock, and you could see the cat train running behind it. I thought it was funny. But, yeah.
But just the speed and the pacing that they've had on this, I think, has surprised everybody. Now, I don't really know if traditionally this is how fast RMC really works, but,
Yeah.
Seeing it happen at our home park, it's been, well, no pun intended, but kind of wild. It's just been crazy. So I don't think there's really been any operational delays there. Maybe whenever it does open in this upcoming week, maybe they will find that there are some issues. But kind of like we mentioned before, that's how it goes. They're using a completely new, unload and loading station style setup, so that could, because it's as first of its kind for RMC, that could potentially cause some issues.
But at the same time, okay, you throw that out as maybe it causes issues. Mm-hmm. It's not the first time the company programming the ride has done a load and unload station.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
So there have been other rides that have been designed by this company that have also, built load unload stations.
Yes.
So
RMC, to preface, RMC is not on the programming side of things, correct?
they are not. It is another company that is doing it.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say, so we'll keep it anonymous.
Yes. Our secret source.
Yes.
But anyways, enough about Wildcats Revenge. We can talk about that another day whenever we have our episode about how we think the ride is. I think that'll be a fun episode, by the way.
Yeah. I will say, though, and we'll give a nice shout-out. I know we weren't going to do sweet spots, but since we're on the topic, we'll say this. I think historically, in the past, couple years, barring, Candy being delayed for COVID,
yeah,
obviously, nobody could have predicted that. Candy opened with the park in 2020. And pretty much everything else at Hershey has opened on time.
Mm-hmm.
Hershey is excellent about that. For the most,
they are.
I cannot recall a single ride that opened late in Hershey's history. Can you?
I can't either. At least not within the past five-ish years or so. If we want to start with the Hershey Triple Towers in 2017, they opened in spring. They opened for springtime in the park, which was like revolutionary for Hersheypark because, like I said, usually they open stuff in the summer. So that was a super awesome surprise.
I remember riding the Triple Towers. They did like a media shoot a couple days before, and I actually went to it.
Oh, did you?
So I'm somewhere. I don't know if it's any commercial footage, but I think I'm somewhere in the archives.
You're in the books.
As a 2017 theme park enthusiast, at the time I was no longer employed by a park. So
I know for a fact that I think they did have some issues with the Hershey's Tower. I remember that first day it was going down just a few times, but again, it's a new attraction. Things like that are going to happen.
Lots of electrical and mechanical pieces there that all have to work together.
Yes,
that's okay.
Reese's Cup Fusion, I think, generally has been pretty successful, particularly because it's an attraction that they've already had, and so they already had a really good relationship with Sally.
Yeah.
And I think Sally really took it to the next level by adding a lot more to it. Of course, they definitely work with another third party to help out with some of the theming work and some of the screens and stuff like that.
You can say the same, by the way, with Jolly Rancher Remix as well, having them Sidewinder,
Absolutely.
The ride, nothing about... I don't want to say nothing about the ride changed, because like it's a whole
different
new experience. It's a whole new
Absolutely.
experience. But like the core mechanical, electrical tidbits of the ride itself, like it's all the same. Hershey's familiar with the issues that the ride has had.
Yeah.
Like like
they know how to troubleshoot stuff.
They know how to troubleshoot it. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like the best way to put that.
Yeah. Right. Mixed is a new attraction, but I'd say that it has its days, admittedly, but overall I feel like it's been a pretty, like, its uptime has been pretty good for a new kind of flat ride that they've gotten. They've also worked pretty closely with Simperla recently. The one year they added, I think, like 3 with Coco Cruiser, Sweet Swing, and Teacups. I think that was around 2016? Maybe, or 2014?
It was 2014, I'm pretty sure.
2014, that sounds more right.
Because it was right before Laugh Track.
Yeah, and Laugh Track has been very, very good. That's one of the rides that we both actually have worked for a few years now, and
that's a fun memory. I love. Me and Hunter have worked Laugh Track a couple times, and that's always a fun day.
It is, but the Laugh Track usually is very, very, cooperative. It's pretty uncommon to actually see that ride go down. So shout out to Mauer for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like overall, like Hershey does really good with operational delays. When you do see rides go down during the day, I would say almost all the time you're going to see it go up very, very quickly. Of course, as soon as possible, but like they're usually delays that are very short term versus long term. But yeah, do you have anything to add really for our Chocolatetown Chat, Tino?
I really don't think so. I think that really covers the gist of it.
Yeah. I mean, just kind of to go over it though, like operational delays, they happen. They're not uncommon. They're safe.
And they happen.
It all comes back to safety.
And it happens. And the thing is, like operational delays, it happens from the beginning, right? We see parks get new things all the time. It's brand new to them. In a way, they know the safety critical stuff from the get-go, right? Because your safety is the number one priority. That has to be. It always is.
Yes.
And of course, we want it to be. But, sometimes operationally, you're learning about how the ride works in the sense of, like, how electrically, how mechanically, how all these pieces are functioning in tandem with each other.
Yes.
And how that translates to how you run a ride. Right, like that all works together, and in a way, parks are still learning. I think every day we're still learning.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly well said.
Yeah,
it's the whole thing is all about learning, troubleshooting, all that stuff. So
yes,
hopefully, I'm hoping this episode kind of gives you more of an understanding of operational delays and, even just why we say that versus saying, oh, it broke down, it's broken, because I stand by the fact that I feel like it gives a false impression of what is really going on with the attraction.
Broken is a very bad term. It's not,
yeah,
it doesn't.
It
really
has such a
reflect.
negative connotation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we talked a little bit today. By the way, we are getting rid of our sweet spot and bitter takes section. So if you liked it, I'm sorry, we're getting rid of it.
That sucks.
It just didn't seem to fit, but that sucks. No, but yeah, I mean, maybe we could do a sweet spot bitter take on Instagram if we really want to.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, but we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't already, please follow us on Instagram @_the_sweet_. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching this today, hi, it's nice to see you. I'm waving to the camera. I'm sure Tino is too. Hi.
Oh, I should do that, huh? Yeah. Hi.
If you're listening on Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, any of those places, you do you, but also check us out on YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe to us, all that fun stuff. We gotta say it.
Yeah, watch our faces. Our faces are interesting.
Watch our faces. We're so beautiful. We're beautiful people.
That's a way of putting that. Those are words, right?
Those are words, yes.
Those are words.
But yeah, totally follow us on Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah.
Once again, @_the_sweet_. And yeah, we're going to see you guys in episode 6. Hopefully, as long as we don't have any delays, any operational delays, in 2 weeks.
Woohoo.
Alrighty.
All right.
See you, everybody.
See ya.
Thanks for riding along with us on the Sweet Seat Podcast.
Don't forget, we dispatch new episodes every other week.
Be sure to snag a season pass to our podcast by following us wherever you listen.